What's up, guys? We're back once again to another malicious compliance. Let's get in the stories, and I'll see you in a bit. I don't have the time, and you don't have a job. Sorry, this is a bit long. When I started working for a local council IT support desk in 2005, the standard operating procedure, SOP, for answering calls is that when the phone rang, we take the user's details, their fault description, and attempt to fix the issue. This went on for 6 years, until we had a new manager with several innovative ideas, which we all knew was not going to work in our particular environment. New manager calls a meeting with the entire team, including his own manager and the head of IT. He lays out the new rules and procedures. We stated that his procedures were not going to work because of various other protocols and the distance between sites. No one in authority listened to our concerns. Two main policies were that we divided into 3 shifts. Morning shift, 7 o'clock to 1500 o'clock. Day shift, 9 o'clock to 1700. And late shift, 1400 and 2200. And that only the day shift is supposed to spend time fixing the more complex issues. Morning shift and late shift are simply call takers. Call takers had 2 minutes per call, and any breach was brought up at your monthly review. Of all the new policies, the 2 minutes per call rule was the worst. Not only did we have a mere 2 minutes to take a call, we had to attempt some troubleshooting and write up all the notes. If this was a new employee, we also had to add their details into the system. Being the more senior support person on the team, I made a mental list of what I could do in that 2 minutes. It was a small list, but it meant that when the first shift started at 7 a.m., most of the important work could be done. Malicious Compliance 1. After a month, the department was in chaos because we could only work 2 minutes before handing it off to the day shift. There were a lot of calls for the 3 day shift workers to attempt to fix. The outstanding queue went from 100 calls to nearly 2,000 calls that month. I maximized my time on every call. If I couldn't fix the call, I ensured that every call would take just under the 2 minute mark. Then dumped them in the day shift call queue. Dropped calls, people who called and hung up, increased drastically, and one of the team went on long-term sick due to stress. Eventually, the boss decided to come in early and see what the problem was. He sees me and another tech taking calls and stands over us while we work through the calls. We both take less than 2 minutes per call and follow his rules to the letter. He has no reason to complain, but sees that the calls are dropping. With 2 people taking calls, 2 minutes per call, and a peak of 30 calls around the 8:30 a.m. time, meant that a lot of these calls drop, then call back later. Later in that shift, I see him checking call stats, and see his face get red. He knows that his policy is not working. Malicious Compliance 2. The following day, boss calls us all into the meeting room and states that we must work harder and smarter. He tells us that we need to use the on-site support team to handle the logged calls instead of the day shift. We still had the 2 minute rule and the same staff levels. I mentioned a couple of times that VIPs couldn't wait and that we need 4 people taking calls from 8 a.m. I was told that the rules still stood. The day after, and we find out that the on-site support have no free slots for over a week, which is 3 times shorter than the day shift's waiting times. Boss is in, and instead of logging onto the phone, he's simply floating around. As 8:30 rolls around, I answer yet another call. This is a VIP, the chief executive. He's in a meeting room 70 miles away, attempting to turn on his laptop, but he can't get past the encryption software. It's an easy fix, but takes 10 minutes over the phone. I can't do it because of the 2 minute rule. I'm torn between dropping the calls or ignoring the chief executive. Boss sees me hesitate and asks what's going on. Laptop encryption. He's in distant town. The boss shuts me down. Hand it off to desktop. I told him already that they wouldn't be able to get out for over a week, and that the day shift could fix it, but this is stopping him from working. Day shift is too busy. I don't care who it is, hand the call off, he told me before walking off. I took the details and told the chief executive that I have to hand the call off, made the notes on the call, and gave the incident reference. I realized that I hadn't told him who it was, but he could get this information easily. I also saved and replayed the recorded conversation to find that my boss could be heard clearly. After lunch, I was called into the office of the head of IT. He chewed me out for leaving the chief executive without anything to present the council's vision of the future for distant town. I was told that the chief executive wants someone's head, metaphorically, for the treatment, and that formal proceedings had started and I was to be suspended on full pay, and did I have anything to add? I told the head of IT that my boss had told me to do it, and when I started explaining about it, he walked away. I also told him that if he pulled my phone log for that call, he could hear the boss saying that. I was told to stay in that office while the head of IT checked. An hour later, I was told to go home on full pay and return in the morning. The result was that the new boss was replaced, fired, and a new boss was placed there, promoted internally, actually listened to his staff, and let us suggest improvements. Force feed me? Bon appetit! This story contains vomit, just in case you're not comfortable with that content. Not sure how malicious this is, but I've been watching a lot of those Reddit storytime videos that have kids vomiting, and it reminds me of this. Dad and me. So, I was about 7 or 8 when this happened, and my parents had a nightmare of a time feeding me. I was really fussy, according to them, but honestly, my mom's cooking is, well, in Australia we call it meat and 3 veg. Usually some kind of grilled meat and boiled, or stranger, vegetables. Put it on a plate and eat it. As white a cooking as you could possibly get. My mom would boil the crap out of the vegetables. Soggy broccoli, mashed potatoes, peas, lamb chop, and some ketchup. My brother was a good water, but I hated my mom's cooking. I thought I hated vegetables for most of my life, but really, it was just hers. Sorry, Mom. I was always doing whatever I could to get out of eating her vegetables. My dog wouldn't eat them. Best friend my ass. So I would, kinda stuff them wherever. Like, we had these big old curtains that seemed to have these deep seams / pockets, and I would put them in there and throw them into a vase or bury them in a pot plant when no one was looking. Hey, I was 7. One night, I guess I was being particularly difficult. I could have eaten mashed potatoes, but Mom had hid peas in the mashed potatoes. I still hate peas, little demon poops, and ruined whatever chance I had of even vaguely enjoying it. I recall that the meat was some kind of boring chicken I wasn't even looking forward to, so there was little incentive for me to get through this meal. My dad had enough and decided he was going to feed me. Like a baby since you're acting like one. My dad isn't a really angry guy, but he can be stubborn when he snaps. Now, he picks up the fork and starts shoveling the mashed potato pea hybrid demon concoction into my mouth. I barely manage to swallow before another is stuffed into my mouth. So, not only am I having to eat what I don't want, but it is going a little too fast for me. I gag. I don't remember exactly what Dad said, but he didn't believe I was actually sick. Somewhat fair, I was a dramatic kid. But I do remember him saying, "You're not leaving this plate until you're finished." Fine, stay with the plate, you got it. A few more mouthfuls and I gag again. Dad pushes another mouthful in, and then it happens. I feel that gag reflex go that bit further. That chain reaction that we are all familiar with has begun. Like a dog that has eaten too much grass, I heave it all up right onto my plate, which my father was holding, and onto his lap. Sloppy white and green mash dripping down the side of the plate, and I slowly looked up at Dad, who just looked stunned. I didn't get into trouble or anything, but I got to eat tin spaghetti, a way better deal, for the rest of my dinner. Dad never tried to force feed me again, and I went back to hiding my vegetables and occasionally throwing them out the window. Alrighty guys, that's gonna wrap it up for the stories. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, maybe consider subscribing if you're new. And if you really, really liked it, maybe give it a thumbs up and a share. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.